Welcome, true believers and people who don't even believe, to Infinity Rewatch. I'm Andrew Fantasia. That's Ryan J. Marvel. He's the handsome one. He's got the red background. Ryan, have you ever smashed anything in your life before?
I have smashed many of things. I did smash my old VCR, and that should just carbon date me right there. But I smashed my old VCR and got it to work one more time before it truly went kaput. So,
What was the last movie you watched in it before it was dead?
oh, you're gonna love this. It was Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost.
Dude, I was literally thinking before you answered. I was literally thinking Last Crusade.
No, it is my favorite. But at that time, my family wanted to just kind of get into Indiana Jones, and that's what we watched.
Well, that's a great way to send off your VHS. I hope Marvel puts all of their shows and movies on VHS, just because. Why not?
Just because. Why, yeah, why not? We should revisit the classic. I mean, if vinyl can make a comeback, why can't VHSs?
Right? Just don't overprice it like they're doing with vinyl, with these like
I,
$50 vinyl for like Ed Sheeran. It's like, no thanks, Ed. Like we'll Spotify's there for a reason.
Absolutely.
But She-Hulk is a thing that we have been sporadically covering on this show. We missed a few weeks, but that's what today is for. We're gonna touch on episodes 6 and 7, and then we're gonna hop right into the meat of episode 8.
Today's kind of like a post mid-season update, is what I'd like.
Yeah, that's the best way to put it. And luckily, episode 6 was a bottle episode anyway. It was just the wedding of her friend.
Yeah.
So,
which is fun.
Yeah, it'll be a quick one to talk about. I think my biggest note that I had to take away from that wedding episode, Ryan, and maybe you disagree, but I felt like at the end of that episode, the chances of She-Hulk and Titania eventually becoming friends has significantly gone up.
Yeah, there's been a lot of there's been a lot of feedback about the show as expected with the Marvel shows. But a lot of people are bashing Titania. A lot of people were bashing Titania, and of course it's the purists being like, "Hey, this is not the comic book version." Which purists? I have to say, being one myself, being someone who's enjoyed the comics myself, you have to let it go. You gotta let it go. This is the whole point of the MCU is to pass the torch, and we got some really good Marvel moments, and we will still get some really good Marvel moments, but we're not going to get a true readaptation, Snyder Watchmen kind of thing. We're not going to get that. So the faster you get to get your head wrapped around that, the better. And the other thing is, of course, Marvel always spins off the social climate of today. And I feel like She-Hulk beautifully adapts that social climate well, and has fun with it. What I like about what Titania, the actor who played Titania, said is, she's like, I don't think people who have been giving her character a lot of negative feedback, she's like, I don't think they get the show. And I think that's a perfect summary of what the show's all about. Is like, it's not what you think it is going to be, and that's the beauty of it. It's kind of a modern take on these characters, and it's a lot of fun.
Bingo.
Yeah, Isabella's sick in bed right now, but you can hear she's like, so good.
Right? She's talking about She-Hulk too, or is she like watching something?
No, she's talking.
She's like, this is the best thing I've ever seen. It's totally not She-Hulk. It's something else.
It's Lord of the Rings. No, just kidding. No. She's talking about She-Hulk. She's resting in bed, but she can hear me.
I'm glad she's digging it. I'm glad she's digging it. And you're right. She-Hulk is, and or rather, like Jamila is right too. That it's about giving you what you don't expect. It's about playing with what you're expecting. At the show, I love that the show does this. And I love just thinking about, like, the Twitter man babies who are like specifically being targeted by these moments, and just thinking of them being like, "Oh, that's She-Hulk," right? He's turning into Yosemite Sam. "Oh, that Russian press, I don't got She-Hulk." So I love whenever the show does that. I thought that was a really fun little wedding episode, and we got to meet Josh. So did Jen. She got to meet this guy named Josh, and I have in my notes for that day, I wrote literally, this is what I wrote: could Jen have met a nice guy here finally with Josh? Question mark. Ryan, what's the answer to that question?
I mean, yes, she did meet a nice guy, but clearly he had an ulterior motive. And what I really liked about the episode is we're seeing all aspects of She-Hulk, and I think that should cement exactly what you wanted, Fantasia. Was you wanted a true character development story, and this episode was a good example of that. Like she. And especially even all the way up till, it's funny how we're doing these 3 episodes together, because you really get to go through the emotional character wheel of She-Hulk, and it's beautiful. I think
we totally planned it that way, right, Ryan?
We just totally life just naturally worked out this way. But we totally got. I think you totally got a really good. If you were to look at a character sheet of She-Hulk, you would literally go through the emotional wheel, and you could literally throw the episodes in the certain parts of the emotional wheel. And what I really liked about the Josh episode was that, she actually found someone that like accepted her for who she was at her core. And that this person recognizes that She-Hulk is an extension of her, and not that She-Hulk is different, right? Yes. And I think my favorite moment is when she's drunk with Josh at the dinner table, and she's just like, this person's seeing me for me. And that was like a really touching moment. And and I could see people being like, oh man, that's total like, soap opera drama. That's total soap opera drama. And the truth is like, yeah, that's when we watch superhero shows like Batman. Batman was dating, like, the first Batman had the reporter trying to get to him, trying to get in his emotional wheelhouse.
And I mean, you can call it soap opera drama all you want, but at the end of the day, it's human development. It is why we tell and listen to stories, because of the human connection. If She-Hulk, or rather if Jen was just like, I don't care about anything that ever happens to me, I am just blasé about everything, we wouldn't be invested in this show.
And
we need these moments.
Yeah, and the other thing I want to chime in on it with this particular episode is that, and looking at She-Hulk as a whole arc at this point, this is probably the fastest origin story I've ever seen. And I say that in a good way. I say that literally, like, the first episode's so much fun. It's like an exploration of the physicality of Hulk in a really fun way, and like She-Hulk. And the funny thing about it, as the journey progresses, is it's literally like, okay, she's now She-Hulk. She kind of gets the limits of her powers right away. Like, she just gets it naturally, which just makes sense. Like, she sympathizes the Hulk experience better. And it's more like, okay, Tuesday, what's her day like? Like, literally, this is like a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday of her week. It's a busy week, of course, but it's still like Tuesday afternoon, she's in court, she's dealing with all this stuff. Tuesday night, she's out drinking and, meets a nice guy. Like, it's a whole thing. And I love it because you kind of get comfortable with the character very quickly. And it's just like, now you get into, She-Hulk's dating life. And it's really fun. It's really emotional and fun to see.
You're right. I didn't even think of the chronology of this, because that so rarely comes into play in these Marvel shows. But like, this is all happening in a week for her.
Well, again, I don't know for sure, but it feels like that.
I think you're right, though, because I think it is like a, no, the time does pass in the next episode because of the
when she comes back from her Mexico trip, then it's kind of like a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday thing, and then a few weeks go by, or I think like 2 or 3 weeks go by after the Josh thing. But my point is it does feel like it feels like you're spending each day with this character.
Yes,
That's how intimate That's how intimate it is. And the fact that she does this fourth wall breaking makes it that much more intimate with this character.
Right. We see the mundanity of her life. We see the intimacy. I can't think of another Marvel hero offhand where we have seen their home this much, except maybe Tony Stark. Like, that's it. I don't know where Captain America lives. I don't.
The Winter Soldier, you do.
The Winter Soldier lives in the place where he goes and buys fruit from.
No, I'm saying Winter Soldier. You know where Cap lives.
Oh, in the Winter Soldier movie. Oh yeah, that's right. He has that apartment.
But yes, most characters you don't know where they live.
Yeah, we see T'Challa. We see like every corner of Wakanda except his house. Like we see the throne room, but where does he sleep? Like, so the fact that we spend so much time with Jen in her apartment, and coupled with her turning the camera and actually addressing us and trolling us, that makes it the most intimate story that Marvel has told. And I think that can't go unnoticed. We can't let that be underplayed. That's a big deal.
Yeah, and exactly. So when it comes to your question about Josh, that's exactly what I think is. It's kind of like, I kind of feel like She-Hulk's BFF at this point is like, man, this guy's. But I know more obviously than she does. But it's like, man, this guy's a douche. Like, yeah. Man, that's really douchey. You know, ghosting her and all that stuff, and it's really funny. Yeah, and then so the side story to the wedding was the Mr. Immortal story, which was hilarious and funny as all heck. Yeah. And we got to see a bit more about Nicole and see how she manages really bizarre situations, which I thought was super fun. I love that she's like, and what's our motto, ladies? Never again. Like, it's so good. And we get to kind of get another inside look at Mallory. And the interesting thing is Mallory is kind of like the linchpin between, you know, Jennifer Walters, She-Hulk, living her current life and like realizing that this could backfire on her. And that was kind of an interesting little thing. And what I liked too was Nicole, when she says like, oh, this whole intelligentsia thing, which opens up a whole different dialogue. She's like, oh, we shouldn't tell Jennifer about this. Nicole looks to the screen, which I thought was interesting. She's like, you know, like that kind of thing. So that was really, again, I love that they're playing with the audience a bit. Now, again, I hope that they don't look at every superhero and try to figure out a way to break the fourth wall. Because really, She-Hulk and Deadpool are the only characters that really do it.
Yeah, but we don't need like Ironheart doesn't need to turn to the camera and be like, "Boy, it sure was hard making that armor." Like, not necessary.
Have you seen Namor? Like, oh my god. So I really enjoy the fourth wall breaking, and like again, this intelligentsia thing is interesting. And so we finally get to see that there is a hate page for She-Hulk, and it starts begging the question, who's behind it?
Somebody immature because of what happens in episode 8. A comment
which is a beautiful segue to episode 8.
Yeah, well, we got to get to episode 7.
Sorry, 7. Yeah,
7 is the retreat. It is the supervillain retreat, but you know, we start off with this great little montage of the cutesy dating life of Jen and Josh. And Ryan, I didn't watch this simultaneously with you that week, but of all the times to not watch a show simultaneously with you, because I know you were thinking it when Josh goes for the handshake at the end of the date. I know what was going through your head.
I hate you.
Because listeners, I have done that before.
Yeah. You had to put us out there and embarrass yourself.
Yeah. Well, I figured if I didn't bring it up, you were going to bring it up. So I was like, I might as well just put my cards on the table right now.
Yeah.
I have never cared.
We had a great night.
Oh boy! In my defense, I had zero thought that it was gonna, go any further than that. So that was
it also in your defense, in today's social climate, that's actually the right thing to do. You should never assume. You should never push yourself on people. You should leave it where it is.
And two things I definitely didn't do on that date was I didn't pair my phone with hers and then, bless you, try to steal her blood. So I've got 2 up on Josh. Thank you very much.
Boom. There you go. Right. Well, yeah, and so I can't believe you brought that up. You brought it on yourself. Brought that on yourself, kid. Yeah. So it was a beautiful little montage sequence now, in the whole Josh thing. The retreat was an interesting episode, and everyone's been asking me, do you think Abomination is playing her? Do you think this is a whole facade?
Well, I gotta tell you, that whole episode, like the whole time she was there in his retreat, I was just a ball of tension because I was waiting for that night. I was waiting for the other shoe to drop in terms of Abomination, especially when she has her breakthrough at the end and all these supervillains sitting around her are convincing her to unhulk. I'm sitting there like, don't do it, girl. Don't drop your guard around these people. Like, and it ended up not being a thing, but I was completely of the mind. Like I was sitting there biting my nails, like he's gonna hurt her, and that didn't end up happening. What was going through your head through that? Because I was just straight up scared the whole time.
I was sitting there actually tense myself, only because I'm like, this guy's a military tactician. Like this guy knows how to play people. And then as time progressed, even my like guard was let down like a little bit, because I'm like, maybe he is just like, because maybe they're just like, maybe they're just modernizing this character and this is his new self, and I don't get it. Like I don't get it. But if it is a ruse, then he's really playing the long game.
Yeah, definitely, especially because of the presence of who was it, Crowbar? One of the wrecking crew members was there.
Oh no, it was Wrecker. It was Wrecker himself.
Like him being there, the fact that we still don't know who hired them, and like I was like, really, he turned on a heel that fast, and he's already trying to change. Like I didn't trust anybody in that room for a second. So you're right. If this is a game, Blonsky's playing it as a long game. Maybe he's in charge of this website. I don't know, but
I don't think he is. I don't think it's that simple. I think that I think it has to be someone higher up in the food chain than a wrecker type person. And it's funny because once we get to episode 8, there's some theories there that proves what I'm talking about. But we'll get there. We'll get there as we go through this mid-season, or sorry, what did I call it? Mid-season update. Update. And the thing is this intelligentsia thing. I don't think it's Wrecker. I don't think it's Abomination. I think Abomination has a role in it, but he's not the administrator. Clearly, I don't think he's smart enough to run an anti thing. Although it would make sense if it's him, because again, this guy could easily have a double thing going on. And, this whole therapy session thing allows him the alibi, if you will, to prove that he's not behind it. But the fact that I've seen a lot of Marvel shows where they don't allude to too much more than what you've already seen, so my thing is it probably is Abomination, and that makes sense. But I hope it's not, because again, I don't think Abomination could coordinate something like that. But I don't know.
I mean, he's got to have money coming from somewhere, because that is an expensive bit of property he's got. He's got a ceremonial sweat yurt, so he's doing something right.
Well, here's the thing too: is that I asked somebody, I don't know, I don't think it was you I was talking to, but I was like, oh no, I was talking to a buddy of mine, and I was like, who hired Jen to represent him? Because I don't believe, and he gave me a good reason. My friend gave me a good reason. He said, well, the 7 wives probably put their money together and did that. But I'm like, how would they know that Jennifer Walters is the person to go to? Right? Like that was like a brand new firm that was just set up, and 7 wives got together and said, hey, we should get on this Jennifer Walters thing. I don't buy that. I don't buy that it's that simple. I feel like someone, and I would love to easily say it was Ross, Like it would make sense because Ross needs his Thunderbolts. And
Mhm.
even though Abomination's not on the roster, doesn't mean that he's not a card he isn't playing.
Yeah, and I mean the manipulation of all that of hiring Jen, that also reeks of Valentina de Fontaine. So
Yes, exactly.
That could totally be a thing too. Elaine could have her hands in all of this. I don't know, but yeah, I didn't trust Blonsky for 1 second here. Even like right up to the point where like she's getting in the tow truck and she's leaving. The slot towing Dan Slott cameo tow truck there, and like she's saying goodbye to him. Even up until that point, I was like, he's not gonna let her leave. He's not. I don't. Maybe I've been watching too many horror movies this year, but I was like, this is building to something bad. And I still don't trust him, even though she got away from that place with her life. But I thought what was cool was we met a lot of D tier villains at this retreat. And I can't remember if I've said this before on the show regarding She-Hulk, but these characters that we meet in She-Hulk, these like super D-list comic book characters, it makes me feel like we're watching The Tick, because that's what these people feel like. Like that guy, the porcupine, he was straight out of The Tick.
Oh, the porcupine was hilarious. But I think all of them are comic book characters. To be honest with you, I know Swashbuckler is for sure,
and Manbull is.
Yeah, and Manbull is as well. Swashbuckler actually is a mutant. So that's another interesting one there.
He's got to fight. He needs to fight the stepdad from Hawkeye.
Yeah,
he needs to get into a sword fight.
Exactly. I would definitely like to see kind of like a what's the word? Oh my god, I'm forgetting it now.
A duel?
Not a duel, but like yes, in the end I mean a duel, but like definitely I don't know. I can't remember. DuPont. I'm thinking DuPont. Musketeers, something like that. There's another word for it, but I'm missing out on it. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. Anyway, so yes, I was looking for definitely a swashbuckling. I would definitely love a swashbuckling sword fighting adventure for sure. Hoping to get that with Black Knight and the Eternals, but that did not happen. Yeah, but anyway, so the therapy session was fun. I kind of like the commentary they dove into a little bit in terms of character exploration, just like that that empowerment kind of thing. I love seeing that for Jennifer Walters. I love seeing that kind of journey she had. And I love that once she saw Wrecker, she was just ready to, just mess some stuff up. And they're like, no, we don't do that here.
The therapy session was a beautiful, like I was worried. I was like, is this just going to be them making a bunch of jokes about their weird personalities, like the vampire guy, whatever? Is this going to be just 30 minutes of this? But having Jen go in there and actually have a therapy session with them and have like a little breakthrough in this group with them is exactly what she needed at that point, because she was obsessed with checking her phone. Is Josh texting me? Is Josh texting me? And it was a hurdle that she had to get over, this little insecurity that was nagging at her. And I don't blame her. I would feel the same way if I got invited to a wedding by some awful entitled person who gave me a friggin' Chihuahua rat dog and said, you're going to walk down the aisle with this, and then told me like I still had a little bit of time to find somebody. I would be insecure too. So I don't blame Jen one bit. So she needed to kind of get that out of her system. And lo and behold, here comes Emil Blonsky with his ceremonial sweat yurch and his group of misfits, one of whom is probably going to fight Blade, and if he's lucky. And they helped her out. So that was really, really surprisingly beautiful.
It was, and again, it plays to this fourth wall breaking that I was talking about. It kind of makes the audience feel they play a participational role in this show, and it kind of I get it. I get like some of the fans' feelings of like, okay, like girl, you need to get over this Josh person. We need to get the story going, but the character has to go through it, right?
Yeah.
Which is funny. And so that to me is like a really good synergy between the audience and the character. Is like, we want her to get through it, but the character has to go through it, which is so funny and so genius. Actually, I thought that was brilliant. So yeah, but I mean, overall, like, yeah, they spent a lot of time in this therapy episode, but it was a necessary thing. But again, I don't know what Abomination's playing at. I don't know if it's just the way the MCU has transformed him into this character, or this like peace-loving character who's really good at managing their feelings, or or if he's really playing this giant ruse, and where is that going?
Yeah, and who knows? Like maybe he's got some kind of criminal plan that has nothing to do with hurting Jen. Maybe Jen was just nothing more than his ticket of getting him out of prison. Maybe he's truly grateful and he's like, yeah, I got nothing against you, lady. Sure, come to my group session. And as soon as she leaves, you know, he calls up his buddies and he's like, hey, Thunderbolts, what's up? So we're going to go, I don't know, kill Captain Marvel? Like, you know, he's probably got his own thing going on. So I still don't trust him, but I'm glad that Jen made it out of there alive because that was a really scary situation. And she made it to waltz her way into episode 8, today's episode.
Which, in my opinion, is the best episode ever.
This was a really, really fun episode.
I wanted to text you, but today was just absolutely chaotic for me. But I wanted to literally just be like, yeah, that was the best episode.
It was great. It was great.
To me, Ribbit and Rip It, episode 8 was probably, if every episode of She-Hulk was like that, this would easily be like Marvel's best show, just because of the way way certain cameos played a role in it. Obviously, Daredevil finally made it into the episode. It was perfect. I don't think I want any more of him, but I definitely didn't want any less of him. I got just enough. And the best part is, the pacing of this episode too was really well done. I love that, we get this really absurd, kind of Adam Westy Batman villain-esque character, who's playing the hero. But, goes to Jennifer Walters, needs representation. Love that. Love the whole story arc there. I love his catchphrase, the ribbit and rip it.
Is he a villain in the comics, or is he a good guy?
He's a good guy, but he causes more problems than he fixes. So
perfect.
So it's kind of a perfectly aligned character. So at first I'm like, First, I have to cover something really big about this particular episode. Internet, you need to calm yourself down when this shows like this come out, because the fact that yesterday I knew Daredevil was coming and there was already enough clips populated on my YouTube thing to be like, here's the fight, here's how it's going to play out. I was pissed. I was just like, what the hell? Because I knew he was coming in that episode. So now I knew it was going to happen. I knew Daredevil was coming. I knew in the trailer Daredevil was coming. And now I knew which episode he was coming in. And not only that, I remember stumbling upon a news article and it explained how Daredevil was being introduced in the episode. So I was completely spoiled right into the gate. But I didn't know the one detail I didn't know was how Matt Murdock was going to walk into the episode. And that was perfect. I mean, I could not ask for it. The second it was the courtroom and his lawyer, the lawyer was late, I was like, oh, it's going to be Matt Murdock. And lo and behold, comes out. But it was amazing.
They gave him a really cool intro. I think that I need to give a round of applause to the writers of this show for something they have been so damn good at since episode 1 till now, is they are so good at writing entitled asshole characters. They have run I didn't know there could be this many different types of entitled asshole characters, but like from the magician that we got, you could argue, even though she ended up being kind of nice, Madison at first, like she came across as like, oh my God, who's this? Like the spoiled rich drunk girl, whatever. To like just the people that Jen meets, like this guy who buys this Wakandan spear, who thinks he's so cool.
That was funny. That was really funny.
And like the friend who had the wedding, who gave her a chihuahua as a partner. Even this guy Luke, who designs the outfits, he's like this really immature, just man baby who just behaves like a child. And Luke, the silver dress you designed for the gala wasn't even all that nice. I'm gonna say it. That silver dress could have been way better considering how much boasting you do about your own damn work. Like, these writers have given so much life. And then of course Frogman, this guy who is just like a rich kid who is just an idiot and thinks that the world owes him things. Like there have been so many of these characters, and they're all so different, but they're all so punchable that I love that this cast of characters is like this. It's really unique to this show, and damn, have they ever done a good job doing it. So whoever's creating them, bravo.
I also really like the dialogue in this one. I felt this one had the most fun in terms of dialogue. And yeah, the Wakanda shit. Oh, that was very. I was just laughing at that guy the whole time. And so I love the pacing. And the second we saw Matt Murdock. Now, the interesting thing about this is this Daredevil is pretty much as close to the comics as you can get. Now, the Miller run, as I so call, is the one we saw in the Netflix series. That's Frank Miller's Daredevil through and through. I mean, tone, dialogue, sarcastic humor, dry sarcastic humor, all that stuff, very much a Frank Miller. The one-liner, cocky kind of character, that's the Daredevil I know. I know from the comics. And this Matt Murdock is a healthy balance between the two. I think they found. I think I see what I mean now when Charlie Cox said in an interview that this is a lighter toned Daredevil, but it's still the Daredevil, and I agree. It's definitely a lighter toned Daredevil, but he still retains a lot from the Netflix series. He's still it's kind of like you haven't seen this person, you haven't seen this friend in a while, but they're doing great, and you just see them shining, and that's what Daredevil is. He's been through a rough time. We haven't seen him in a while, but now he's come back and he's doing great.
Yeah.
And they did a really good job making him lighter tone, but still fitting the narrative that he built in his own series.
They did. And I'm curious how much of that can be attributed to, like, is it a case of we're catching this guy on a good day? Like, is it because he's on such a fun, lighthearted show? Because it is a very different guy. And I do prefer this guy, because normally I find Daredevil, the guy, very bland, and like I could just take or leave him. So I do prefer that this guy is a bit more animated. He's got a bit more pep to him. He can actually, joke around. He can have a human conversation that's not just brooding. And she even makes fun of him for brooding. So there's definitely a difference, and I'm curious if that will change or stay consistent when we get to Born Again. I thought it was really ironic that today is the day that we get Daredevil on the show, because I have this thing with my right ear, Ryan, where every few years it gets blocked, and I need to go to the doctor and unblock it. Fun Andrew medical facts. Yeah, that's a new segment. And that happened to me a couple of weeks ago. It got blocked, and today I went to go get it unblocked. And I don't know if you've ever had your ears flushed out, Ryan, but it is literally like becoming Daredevil for 48 hours. The difference between having a blocked ear and not, I could hear. I'm sitting in a doctor's office, and everything's muffled, as if you're putting your hands over your ear, and then he does what he does, and all of a sudden I can hear the patients in the waiting room talking okay, we're next, put the magazine down, we're next. I can hear the air flowing through the air conditioning ducts. It is purely a Daredevil experience. So the fact that it happened today was just the stars lined up.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you mentioned that. I love the dialogue. I love the dialogue between She-Hulk and Daredevil. It was so good. I was just sitting there, I was watching with Isabel this morning. I was just I was absolutely loving it. I love that she's the hearing the heartbeat thing. She's yeah, hear whatever. And he's and he's I hear yours too. And then her heart's playing. She's oh, I'm healthy. I'm good. I'm good. And then she walks off. And then, them getting the math right, which is funny because he said it was going to take 10 to 15 seconds to knock out each person, and she says it's going to take a half an hour because she was talking about the show. The show's going to take a half an hour to get him through all his content, but he's thinking obviously in the world, which I thought was priceless. And I just love the aesthetics of that fight scene, the lily pad, the warehouse fight. It was just so much fun. And I loved how acrobatic Daredevil was. In fact, in the comics, he was that kind of, he was much more of a trickster. Like in the Netflix one, he was more of a brawler. Like he just fought very acrobatically. In this one, he just was acrobatically, like he was more acrobatic than fighting. Like he's just like doing all these cool flips and stuff. And it was just so fun. I just love that. And then she's like, I'm gonna do my She-Hulk thing, and does her little fun dance, and he's just like, okay, whatever. And he's like, she's like, do you know where you're going? Or no, she's like, and by the way, I was pointing at me, and she's like, and he's like, oh yeah, I know, echolocation, remember? Like, I just loved the dialogue. It was perfect. It was perfect for the show.
They had the chemistry together was so great. Like there was no way this episode was not ending with her boning him. Like it was not gonna end any other way. But my favorite part.
Sorry, I love the walk of shame. I love the walk of shame too. That he had to do the walk of shame. It was so good.
He was just casually walking down the street barefoot.
His Daredevil costume.
But my favorite part of all of this came when, as Daredevil is clearing out the lily pad, he's fighting on. Thank you, by the way, Mr. Murdoch, for teaching us the difference between goons and henchmen, because that is very valuable information. And I'm going to hang on to that for the rest of my life.
I wanted to talk about that. But do your thing. I have to quickly get something, but I can hear you. But keep talking where you're going to go with this.
All right. So my favorite part of this whole episode comes right at this moment. And it comes at the expense of a lot of Twitter users, I'm sure. But it comes when Daredevil is clearing out the lily pad and he's fighting off the goons. I believe he said they were goons because they're just there for money. They don't care about the cause. That would be henchmen, and that's not what they are. And he's clearing out the goons in this hallway, and it is feeling very much like a classic Daredevil fight scene. And then a whole bunch of more goons around the corner, and they stare him down, and he stares them down, and you know what's coming. And the whole time, I was sitting there on my couch saying to myself, please, please let She-Hulk come in and finish these guys off. Please do not let this turn into a big Daredevil fight. Let it be She-Hulk who finishes them off. And sure enough, as they get halfway down the hallway, Jen crashes through the roof. She-Hulk smash. No more goons. They might be dead. I'm not sure how much she weighs when she's in Hulk form, but she did drop a concrete roof on them, and they didn't get up. She might have killed some dudes, but I mean, they were goons anyway, so it's not like anybody's going to miss them. But that was my favorite part. I'm so happy that they stayed true to the fact that this is She-Hulk's show, and she ended up dropping those final goons. That was exactly what I wanted.
So about the goons and henchmen. So they mentioned that goons are pay for hire, and henchmen are dedicated to the cause. And this brings me back to the intelligentsia thing. I'm sorry, love. I did not. All right. So so the henchmen believe in the henchmen believe in the cause. The goons are pay for hire. And so what's happening here is with the intelligentsia thing, I think Wrecker I think he was a goon, which means he was just paid for a cause. Mm-hmm. So if he is being like the redeeming type here, then that makes sense. And that he is a goon. Now, I think Abomination is a henchman. I think he is playing to a cause, but we don't know what that is yet. And that brings me to that is what my theory is with the intelligentsia thing.
I like that. So there are people at different levels operating in this thing. Some of them have more stake in it than others. I can totally get behind and I still wouldn't put it past Abomination to be part of that. What do you have an opinion on that moment? My favorite moment, her just dropping on those guys.
Oh, just I think it was so fun. Just cut out the middleman and like
exactly. It needed
keep the show moving forward.
This She-Hulk's show.
Mhm.
It should not have ever evolved into just an excuse to get Daredevil to kick ass for 10 minutes. We have 3 seasons of that already. It needed to stay She-Hulk's show. So that was my favorite part, not only of the episode, but probably one of my favorite parts of the whole series so far, that they set up what looks like another Daredevil scene where he kicks a bunch of people's asses, but She-Hulk beats him to it. That was perfect. That was literally a perfect Marvel moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it was a perfect Marvel moment. That whole scene in the warehouse that was your Marvel moment.
Yeah.
Which is beautiful full circle conversation to what we were talking about earlier. Is like, if you're a comic book purist, that whole scene was a comic book moment. And it was so fun. In fact, one thing I wanted to call out, speaking of comic book moments, is when she was fighting Daredevil on the parking lot. She picks up the car and she tries to throw it at him. That was a literally comic book pose for throw scene. It was literally like she does the exact same position she would to pick up the car, lift it, and throw it.
To anybody who's still complaining that they don't like Phase 4 because they don't think it's good, we got a scene where She-Hulk picked up a car, threw it at the yellow and red Daredevil, while Frogman escaped both of them in the sports car. This is the greatest show ever made.
Yeah.
Okay?
Absolutely.
Second greatest after Cobra Kai, but it's close.
Yeah. But it is. I think it truly cements itself as like a really good character exploration piece. Now, the interesting thing too is about this whole fun, She-Hulk show and show Disney Plus shows, is that Disney Plus is considering focusing more on special presentations as opposed to your traditional Disney Plus series.
Interesting. So that would be along the lines of Werewolf by Night, which comes out tomorrow.
Yes. So Werewolf by Night is essentially going to be a pilot to see if people will prefer that experience.
Interesting. I'm okay with that as long as it doesn't turn into committee over art, as long as it's not like, wow, yeah, this Nova pilot we made was absolute hot trash, but it got 0.4 more streams than these good things we did, so we're just going to make that. Like, I hope it doesn't become that, because Disney likes to fall into that trap a lot.
Well, no, but like, here's the thing, right? Like, I don't know. I don't think they're gonna completely eliminate Disney Plus shows, but I think they're gonna redesign them in terms of like, what if a character does not have enough for a full series, like a 6-episode miniseries kind of thing? Well, if it's 6-episode miniseries, why don't you just make it a like TV movie?
Right. In that case, I'm okay with that. Like, if Werewolf by Night is just its own thing. Well, they're doing that with Armor Wars, right? That news dropped.
Well, Armor Wars is turning into a movie.
Yeah.
Is what I'm told. Yes.
So they obviously had a cool idea. They were probably going to try to do it in 6 episodes because that's the norm. And some smart person probably looked at the script and said, this can be trimmed to a really good 2-hour movie. Mm-hmm. And we're going to get that. So that's exciting. The more movies, the merrier, I think.
Absolutely. So I'm definitely interested in the idea. I would love different echelons of content for Marvel. Like, I would love, TV series and then a special presentation. Like, technically Blade could be a special presentation. You know what I mean? Like, we know, because I think Blade's jumped from movie to TV show, back to movie, back to TV show. So I can't remember where it's at right now, but like it could be like a, an hour and a half movie, or like, why not? So I'm okay with that. I in fact, kind of a change in the pacing of content might be nice. What I will say about the shows that are nice is like sometimes you just don't have enough time to go see like a whole movie, or even like because like even when I'm revisiting Marvel stuff, like sometimes I'll watch while I work and stuff. The movies are a lot to sit through, when you just have a lot going on. You know what I mean? Like movies are just a lot to sit through. So, just having a change in pacing is good. But yeah, this episode though, I would love if every episode of She-Hulk was like that. But that being said, I still love every episode of She-Hulk that I've gotten so far. But in terms of the comic book loving person that I am, this episode was like,
this was the most comic booky one they've made for sure. And it ends with a very comic booky cliffhanger because she goes to this gala in the dress that Luke is not that great, my friend. Okay, so calm down.
Remember, these suits have to be functional. They have to be able to adjust to her size, right? Because her size changes.
That looks like something she could have gotten at Fairweather. I'm just saying, if this guy's going to keep posting, he should put his money and his sewing needle where his mouth is. So she goes to this gala. She does look great, even though the dress is subpar. And then this horrible thing happens. First of all, the cringe-worthy thing of like this guy saying, "What's it like to be a female lawyer?" And I love that. What's her name? Book. She put him in his place and said, we work twice as hard for less gain, and we get asked stupid questions.
Mallory Book, yeah.
Mallory Book, yeah. People ask stupid questions like, "What's it like to be a female lawyer?" I'm glad that she threw that out there. But then this awful thing happens to Jen, where Intelligentsia is putting a sex tape that they made up in front of everybody, slandering her name. And we see for the first time She-Hulk lose that control that she posted from episode 1 and fully become a scary Hulk. And I am there for it.
As they say in the comics, a savage She-Hulk.
Hey, there we go. $10 says the word savage is going to get dropped in the finale somewhere.
I think so. But yeah, this is interesting. It speaks volumes to how damaging, exposing someone on that level can be. And what Marvel can do when they do it right is, in acting, we always say you raise the stakes, always raise the stakes. And Marvel series, when they do it right, they push it. Like I don't ever think you could raise the stakes any higher than in certain character situations that they've done before. Like even that's why I love the Iron Man, the first movie, so much, is like, you take this character and you raise the stakes to a point where this character hits this threshold of like, what are you going to do? And there's that's why my favorite scene in kind of Iron Man is like when he finds out when he finds out his company's double dealing, and then it comes down to, what, you got to cut this whole life that you've had, and now you have a tough decision to make. Like, what are you going to do? And then after that, it's just pure, comic book pleasure after. But that's what I loved about this moment with She-Hulk is she kind of life finally kind of centers itself. She's this superhero lawyer. She's, then she's She-Hulk herself, just dealing with the fact that she has Hulk blood, essentially. And she's also Jennifer Walters. And life kind of finally found its happy center to only be exposed, just thrown out there so publicly. And that's really devastating, because that stuff's like hard to not be able to live from. To live past. And so now the stakes are finally at its highest moment, and it's like, well, what is she gonna do? And I can't wait. And this show did a good job too, talking to the comic book fans a little bit. Like, you had Nicole do the Wolverine thing, which was a nice little reference. You had you had Jennifer Walters say, Tatiana Maslany say Red Hulk. She actually threw a Red Hulk in there. So there's a lot now out there, in the open. So the episode 9 is just going to be a perfect finale / fun ride of what was She-Hulk.
Yeah, man, I can't wait to see more of this idea, because what better way to raise the stakes for her than to take this character who has been popular in the public eye. A lot of people know her, they know who she is. She's looked at as a lawyer, sometimes as a superhero, sometimes as this, sometimes as that. Sometimes it's not positive attention, but she's always got this attention. But for the first time, she sees these people at this gala looking at her in terror, like looking at her as if she's a monster. And that's the one big part of being a Hulk that I don't think Bruce ever prepared her for, and that she's never had to deal with. Even in the cartoon, I don't remember her ever having to deal with that. In the cartoon, she was always having fun. Nobody was ever afraid of She-Hulk. They loved her. They had a crush on her. She was awesome. She was this gorgeous celebrity. So for this to turn into a monster thing, which is what Hulk is at its core, I can't wait to see them explore that and what that does to Jen, seeing people react to her as a monster.
And what also excites me about the show that they touched on in this episode is, first of all, they mentioned the Sokovia Accords have been reappealed. So things are kind of calmer on restricting superpowered individuals. Yeah. But Ross brought up a good point, is like, these superheroes are nukes. You can't just misplace them. They can cause real damage. And so I love that this episode also explores and resurfaces the question of, like, should there be registration? And even that joke of a court scene of Frogman and Luke Gibson, I think his name is. It is, should we, we need to, if everyone's using these superhero suits from this person, we need to bring them all out in the open and go through the whole thing. And Daredevil's like, no, we can't do that. That exposes them to the public and danger and all this. And so it's a subtle, very subtle comment, because they obviously don't want to keep the show focused on She-Hulk, but it still opens up a lot of big conversations.
Yes, and that is, bless you, that is a thread that really will, I think, dangle farther down the timeline into Thunderbolts, because I think Thunderbolts is going to touch on that a lot. Mm-hmm. When the government gets their way, and here's a group of supers where it's like, hey, we own you. Never good. Historically not awesome, as Tony Stark would put it, when you give immense power to governments. Mm-hmm. Never going to go right. So we got to cut it kind of short tonight, but I think we got to the meat of everything we wanted to talk about. If there's anything else you wanted to bring up, Ryan, take it away. If not, tell us where we can find you.
The three big things I want you to take away from She-Hulk right now, and where the Marvel Cinematic Universe is. Number one is the Civil War. Is it done? Is it not done?
Are we going to get a movie called Captain America: The Revolutionary War?
You have a project called Captain America: New World Order. Two, the second thing, who is Intelligentsia, and what are they doing? Like, what is their goal? What is their goal with the Hulks? Right. Clearly, they I'm going to say Hulks plurally, because there's more than one. And three, and finally, is why is all this stuff surfacing now? Mutants, superpowered people, they're all just coming out of the woodwork in this show. Mm-hmm. Why now?
I'm going to make a weird prediction that only just came to me right now, so it might be completely idiotic. But I think something's going to happen at the end of the next episode, at the end of the finale. And then once that happens, Feige and company will announce a Hulk-centric movie as part of Phase 6.
World War Hulk, baby. Hulk. We'll see.
Maybe it's called Hulks. But he's in it, Jen's in it, Red Hulk's in it, and the kid we know he has on Sakaar, which is where he went, he's totally going to be in it. That's my theory, and I'm sticking to it.
All right, there you go. So as always, you can find me. I haven't been on Xbox Canada lately just because I've been too crazy busy with work. But you can find me on twitch.tv/Xbox Canada. And then you can also find me on Twitter. If you tag me, I will keep an eye out for your posts, and I will message you back, as proven with Jonathan, our wonderful viewer. And so thank you for that. And yeah, stay tuned for that. But you can find me on Twitter at Crusader Online.
Yeah, thank you, Jonathan. And special thank you to Disney Dizzy as well, who shouted out to us in the chat today. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Andrew Fantasia, and on my YouTube channel, the Andrew Fantasia YouTube channel. And if you at me, I will be like, hey, what does at mean? I'm old. I don't understand computers. But I will appreciate it all the same. So until next week, well, actually, we'll probably see you sooner than that because of Werewolf by Night, which drops tomorrow. So we'll find a time to hop on and do an episode about that in the coming week, Mr. Ryan. But in the meantime, I hope all of you have a marvelous day.